Welcome to the Arbortext Monster Garage. My name is Liz Fraley. I'll be your moderator today. With Arbortext in your tool chest, you can do anything. This morning we are just crazy full of anticipation about what we're about to see, because Simon Taylor from PTC is here. As the product manager for all things layout, Simon spends his time thinking about putting content on pages. And today we're going to see some of the fancy but extremely practical things you can do when you combine SVG with your document content. Get ready to pimp your content out because Simon's in the house, and when that's the way it is, there's no limit to what you can do. Are you ready? Because I sure am. Now I'll turn the presentation over to today's shop coach, Simon Taylor. Simon, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Liz. I'm going to show you today how to do some cool stuff using Inline SVG with the APP engine inside Styler. The first thing I'm going to show you is, if I'm clicking the right application, is how to do this kind of thing. And what I'm doing here is I'm creating an arrow which spans the piece of text that's underneath it. And the arrow size is according to the piece of text that it's being formatted over. And there's a couple of neat features inside APP which allow you to do this kind of thing. And of course I'm generating the arrows dynamically based on the size of the content. I'm not using any inline rules or anything like that. I'm just using SVG to create that arrow. Then the next thing I'm going to show you is how to create some further SVG, this time using an inline XSLT, to create a graph here based on the content that's in your document. So that's a quick preview of what we're going to do. So how do I do it? Well, let's have a look at the content first. The content is one of my customized DTDs, kind of loosely, very loosely based around DocBook because it's an easy place to get started using for a Styler style sheet. I created a couple of extra tags inside there, extra elements. First I've got action and I've got reverse. Action I want to have the left to right arrow over, and reverse I want to have a right to left arrow over. So we'll look at this stuff first. Let's have a quick look inside the style sheet. Let's have a look at action. Well, action, all I'm doing is I've got a UFE that I want to use. I'm going to hack that UFE about a bit and put a whole lot of new APP code in there to create the arrow. I'm doing it as a UFE because I want the arrow to appear immediately after the element, and I want it to have access to all the content inside the element. So I'm going to do that. Very easy to create that. You know how to do that inside Styler, I'm sure, already. In the after gentext, I've got a little bit of space, and all that does is just pushes the following bit of content away from the end of the arrow so it looks nice. There's no smoke and mirrors inside there. So let's have a look, see what goes on inside my arrow. Up here is fully APP edited source. First of all, I'm declaring a function. This is using the FOM JavaScript code inside APP, so it's all nice and easy to understand. Very quick and easy. I'm creating a function, and all this does is takes a couple of parameters, the width and the height and the number of the arrow graphic that I'm going to create, takes those parameters and then just blats those values into a path into my SVG. And what that does then is creates an APP tag, which is a content stream which contains that SVG content. Then further down here, is where I call it. Now let me just get the process right. So this line here is very quick and easy. It just gets the current text height. So if I change the text height, you would expect the arrow to grow. So I'm just going to use the current text height to feed into my SVG arrow generator. The next couple of lines increment a numeric counter, and I use a numeric counter so that I can create a new SVG graphic each time. Just keeps everything sort of nice and tidy. The next bit is a little bit of APP magic, which allows you to create a new length, and that new length is based on the length of the piece of text that you're passing into that length. So here I'm using the content of the current node. Ref node is a bit of DOM magic which gets applied to generated text to tell APP's formatting where that node comes from, or what the parent, what the thing is that's applying that gentext. So I can use that to just get the content that I need. Then further down here I am, look at that, I'm missing a semicolon. I am converting my values from decimicrons, which is APP's internal unit of measure. Decimicron is 1/10,000th of a millimeter. I'm converting those values into pixels using standard pixel converter for APP, which is 2.54 pixels to the millimeter. Then I am calling the function, which is up here, with those values, and then the last bit is again some pretty old school APP magic, which converts, first bit here converts the SVG element into an SVG graphic, an object graphic in this case. An object graphic in APP is a vector graphic rather than a raster graphic, which is bitmap. Object graphics appear over the top of content rather than underneath content. And they're represented using APP's vector drawing code. So we know that we're going to get some nice scalability, and it's all what SVG is all about, the vector control. The next bit here, this H command, is another old school APP command, and that just is a horizontal shift, a bit like kerning. And what that does is it makes sure that the content after the inline graphic is displayed actually gets repositioned back to the right place. I lost my train of thought there for a minute. This little chunk here is the thing which actually displays the inline graphic. So I'm using the inline object calling bit of code, and I'm pointing to the graphic which gets created during that process up above. So let's have a look at that in action. If I close that and do the preview, yes, I want to save that. In the preview, if I page down, you can see this graphic here is being created. It's a nice smooth path. I'm using SVG's corner splicing commands to make sure that it's a nice smooth path. The kerning is what's moving the content back to this position here, and in the end format after, add text after part of the gentext, I'm adding a little bit of space to pull it away from the pointy bit of the arrow. So that's what's going on there. It's all nice and easy, using a bit of JavaScript to generate my my SVG. Quite nice. So that's pretty basic. The reverse one uses a different bit of SVG, and that just reverses the arrow flow. If you want to have a quick look at that one, that just uses a different function here to reverse the way that the arrow points, but everything else is pretty much the same. All I had to do to convert one to the other was add a few minor signs in a couple of different places inside the code that generates the SVG. Nice and easy. So the next thing that I've got on here is this graph. Let's have a look at that in the preview again. Now the graph is showing the inflation rates. These are inflation rates in the UK from 1990 to 2002. The graph is showing those rates over a year. Richard Jinks, one of our developers, did a presentation quite a few years ago in Vancouver at an SVG conference to show how APP can do stuff, and so he had this sample knocking around. He lent it to me a couple of days ago, and I managed to hack it apart and put it back together again inside this Styler environment to sort of show this graph being produced. Now the way this is working is I'm using an inline XSLT command to generate the SVG graphic. So the previous example used JavaScript, and this time I'm using inline SVG, and that inline XSLT, and that XSLT is located inside this template. So I'm using an add-on template to contain the XSLT. Obviously, there's no way in Styler to write your own XSLT and contain it within the style sheet, so I'm having to use an associated template to do that. The only thing that's inside that associated template is the XSLT. So where am I doing that? I'm doing that inside the, I'm calling it inside the inflation tag. So in the inflation element. So again, I'm using a UFE. I'm calling a UFE called SVG graph. That UFE SVG graph is up here, and again, I've hacked it apart to do my bidding. Inside here, then, this is the APP edited source for the SVG graph UFE. First thing I'm going to do is make sure I'm formatting inside a block, and that puts everything onto a line of its own. That just tidies up my formatting and makes it look good. I'm then going to create a parameter control stream. A parameter control stream allows you to pass parameters into your XSLT from outside in APP. I'm doing that, and I'm just populating it with a year parameter and giving it the value of the year attribute on the inflation node. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to pick out a single year from the data table and apply the XSLT just to that. The rest of it is pretty much the same as before. The only bit which is different is this line here, which uses some more old school APP commands. This thing here is called a function variable, and that is the thing which applies the XSLT in line. What that takes as parameters is a target content stream you want to apply it to, then the node that you want to apply the XSLT to. So I'm basically taking my reference node path and applying it to that, and then I'm creating this is the XSLT that's being applied, and then I'm creating a content stream out of it. Because I'm creating an SVG graphic content stream, I need to convert that to an object graphic, and that's what this line down here is doing. And I'm using the object calling code to actually display that graphic. So that's all that's going on there. The hard work was right in the XSLT, and thankfully Richard Jinks wrote that for me, so I didn't have too much bother there. Also in the output you saw the table stuff, and what I did was basically write some really easy APP code down here to format the tabular stuff as a table and display it. One of the neat little checks I did inside there was to make sure that the row which matches the attribute value in the XML to show which graphic I want to show, I'll make that row yellow so you can actually see the content of it a lot more quickly and easily. So then during the formatting process, APP will hit the inflation element. It will apply the XSLT to the whole of its content. It will generate the graphic based on which chunk of data is referenced by this year attribute in the inflation element, and then it will generate the SVG graphic, display it, and then format the rest of the table. So when we have a look at that preview again, you can see there it's generating the graphic and displaying the table. I pulled out year 1997 just to show you that the information's there. If I go in here and I can change that to 1991 and then run the print preview again, you'll see that it's a completely different graphic and the year 1991 is highlighted. How cool is that? So there you go, Liz.
That's very cool.
SVG. It didn't take an awful lot of time to build that stuff. The hard part, as I said, would be writing the XSLT to create the graphic, and then the rest is applying it using some old school stuff inside APP.
Fantastic. All right. Well, let's see if anybody's got questions. Type them into the question window. It'll take a minute to do that. That's amazing, Simon. I love that. That's really, so the XSLT is drawing the line in the
XSLT is drawing the whole graph.
The whole graph.
Graphic.
Wow.
Yeah, including the labels.
That's really cool.
And yeah, it's not that big either. It's quite a simple one.
Nice. Wow.
So obviously you can use inline XSLT to generate any kind of graph. If you want to do a pie chart and you know how to write the XSLT to do that, then you can do that. And that's all based on the live content. So if the content changes, obviously your graphic will change and be updated.
Fabulous. This is kind of an off-the-side question. This is all for print. Can you use that inline XSLT to change the display in the HTML output?
No, this is only being applied inside APP. APP's got this neat little feature which allows you to apply an XSLT to a specific node in your content.
Okay.
Which we've used to do all kinds of nice things. So generating XSLT is just one example of what you can do, but you can, SVG is a nice example. But you can do other things like rearrange, say you've got a bibliography in one form and you want to display it in one of the standard output forms, and you can just apply an inline XSLT to rearrange it. And
right.
rather than sort of doing a whole XSLT on all of your content, you can just apply it to a single node at a time, which is quite a nice feature.
That is. So I could see doing turning a procedure of steps into like a flow diagram this way too.
Yes. How cool would that be?
That would be cool. Wow. All right. Well, so I don't see that we've got very many questions today. I think you kind of blew everyone out of the water, and they were not expecting this. I know I was thrilled to see the graph because I know you were working on that. I was just expecting the decal part, but this is very, very awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad you like it.
I do. Well, so we'll give people a chance to add any questions if they want to, and I will put up again this resources for Arbortext users page. We like to make sure that everyone knows all the resources available to you as Arbortext users. All you got to do is go to the link at the bottom, and then all these things are clickable, and you don't have to type them all down or write them down today. I know how painful that can be. Be sure to come next week. Next week we're going to tackle ways to hack your search results in DMP output. You don't want to miss it. That's always a handy thing to see how you do that. So, all right. Thanks everybody for coming. I'm not seeing any questions. So I think you did just sort of blow people away. We'll have to bring them again when we do more on APP in the webinar in a couple of months.
Obviously, if anybody wants to get in touch offline, they can write to me. And if I get time, I'll put together a little care package like I did last time.
That would be fabulous. Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.